Good morning. Let's get started on our mats today on our backs. And as you come down onto your back, you can either have the soles of the feet on the mat or out in front of you. It doesn't really matter which one, just whichever one feels more relaxing in this moment. Close the eyes and notice how your breathing is right now without changing anything. And start to take a deeper breath in through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose, fill all the way up. Exhale out of the mouth, let it go. Last one like that. Big breath in. Exhale as long as you can out of the mouth. Keep pushing, keep pushing. Inhale in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Keep going with this breath, Ujjayi. Figuring out what your version of it is today. Observing what's changed with just these first several breaths. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Left foot can stay on the mat unless it feels okay to extend the left leg out in front of you. You just want to be careful with the lower back. If it's too much too soon, then the left foot can rest on the mat. If it feels okay, left leg extends. You bring that right knee in toward the chest, but keep the left leg firm if it's extended out in front of you. So top of the left thigh is going down toward the mat, and it's as if you're standing on the left leg. So sit bones are level. And then you can extend that right leg up, grabbing onto the back of the right thigh. Flex the foot so you bring the toes down so they point down toward the face. And then you feel that length in the backside of the calf, Achilles tendon as the heel goes up toward the sky. Careful with that outer right hip. It wants to come up toward the shoulder. Try to get it so that it's level with the other hip. And you can maybe tell by the way the toes are pointing too. Then bring that right knee back in toward the chest. Right foot comes down to the mat. Left knee comes in toward the chest. Start here. Maybe extend the right leg forward. See how that feels. You can always bring it back in. Keep that right leg firm. Top of the thigh going down toward the mat, not lifting away from it. Right toes pointing up. There's some energy going out through the sole of the right foot as you bring the left knee in. Then extend the left leg up. Grab onto the back of the hamstring. Toes come down toward the face. Figure out where that outer left hip is. Keep it even with the right hip so it's not coming up toward the left shoulder. And that left leg comes in as close as you want to the body, but we're just starting out, so you're not looking for the deepest stretch, just a nice gentle opening stretch to start to get into that leg. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Give it a good squeeze. Try not to lose control of the right leg. And then bring both knees in toward the chest. You can rock side to side a little bit. Then reach the arms up. So keep the knees in toward the chest. Reach the arms up. Palms are facing one another. Fingertips going up. And then extend the legs up. So feet over the hips. So arms are reaching up and legs are reaching up. And then reach the right arm back behind you and the left leg forward. And you can hover the left heel right over the mat, but the left arm and the right leg are still reaching up. So it's opposite leg, opposite arm. And then slowly bring it back to center. Arm and the leg come back together. Left arm reaches back behind you. Right leg hovers forward, heel above the mat. If you need to rest it, you can. It's a little harder if you hover the heel. So I'll leave that decision to you. Then bring the arm and the leg back to center. So right arm, left leg, reach them away from one another, hover that heel. Bring the arm and the leg back up to center. Left arm, right leg. Back up to center. Right arm, left leg. Back up to center. Left arm, right leg. Back up to center. One more time each side. Right arm, left leg. Back to center. Left arm, right leg. Back to center. Let's do both arms, both legs. Reach the arms back. You can bring the feet together so that you feel like you have one leg. And then if you want to hover the head, that makes it a little bit harder, but you don't have to, especially if it gets into the neck too much. And then hold this for 3, 2, 1, and let it all go. Lying down on the mat. Start to walk the feet in, roll over to your right side. Use the hands to bring yourself up to seated. And we'll come forward to hands and knees, coming right into cat-cow. Take a moment to stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. When you feel ready, reach the heart forward, lift the tail, and on the exhale, rounding the whole spine. Any version of cat-cow you want. So it could be slower. You could add more movement. You could just stay static and find one spot that needs a little extra. Breathe into it. One more forward and back, or just one more cycle of breath wherever you are. Back to neutral spine. So from your tabletop, step the right toes back behind you, lift the right leg up. So you're just trying to get that heel up to hip height. The toes on the right foot are pointing down toward the mat. So don't let them turn out to the right. And then come up onto the left fingertips, reach the left arm forward. So you feel those stabilizing muscles have to work. Chest is level, hips are level. Get a little longer on the inhale. And on the exhale, curl, elbow to knee. And you're trying to lift that right foot up as high as you can. Inhale, extend 2 more times. Exhale, bring it all in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bring it all in. Inhale, lengthen, set the left hand back down onto the mat and the right knee down to the mat. Left toe step back behind you, fire up the leg before you lift the heel up to hip height. Come up onto the right fingertip, see how that feels, and then reach the right arm forward. Get a little longer on your next inhale. Exhale, curl, elbow to knee, lift the shin and the foot up as high as you can. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. One more. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. This time, inhale, extend. Right hand comes down, left knee comes down. From here, hands are shoulder width distance apart. Step the feet back behind you, top of a push-up plank pose. So stretch those legs, reach the heart forward, lower all the way down to the mat slowly with control. So you're lying down on your stomach. Tops of the feet down, hands back by the lower ribs. Let's take a baby cobra. So as you press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. Outer elbows hug in. Then exhale, let that go. Tailbone points back toward the heels, belly lifts away from the mat. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Last one, a little bigger if you want. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Come back up to hands and knees. And then this time, bring the knees all the way together. Feet separate just as wide, a little bit wider than the hips. We're going to sit back in between the feet. You could use a block between the feet or something like it if the hips don't come all the way down, but we want the hips to touch on something. And if you don't have a block and the hips aren't reaching all the way down to the mat, you don't have anything to bridge that gap, then just bring the feet all the way together and you can sit back onto the heels. So either one of those works. And if the knees aren't having it, then just come to an easy cross-legged seat. So some version of seated on the mat. And then from here, reach the arms forward, palms facing up, bring the right arm on top of the left arm. And you can either just grab the shoulder blades, bringing the elbows down toward the chest, pulling the shoulder blades apart, shoulders away from the ears, or you can bring the backs of the forearms together, maybe even the left fingertips come inside the right hand. But this way, the right elbow is hooked on top of the left. And if it feels okay and you have eagle arms with the forearms together, you could start to lift the forearms up a little bit, especially if you're not feeling any kind of opening in the upper back until you do. Breathe into it. Then elbows back in line with the shoulders. If you lift the forearms, reach the arms forward and we'll switch sides. Left arm on top of right. You can start with grabbing the shoulders, elbows down, keep the shoulders away from the ears. Maybe you bring the backs of the forearms together. Maybe the right fingertips come inside the left hand. All of those are options. You find the one that's working best on this side. Hands right over the elbows if you have eagle arms. Maybe the forearms start to reach up. You listen to the upper back to figure out where you need to be. So all these poses are going to look a little different in everyone. And the biggest part of this practice is figuring out what version works best in you. And that could change from time to time, depending on what you've done with your body before the last practice. Come back to center. You can release the arms down by the sides. Come forward to hands and knees. If you have anything between the feet, just set it off to the side. And we'll take downward facing dog. So get the hands out in front of you, spread the fingers wide, turn the index fingers out a little bit or point them forward. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. So this should be a nice stretch with the legs, especially if you had some version of kneeling happening in the last pose. So you can pedal out the feet. You could separate the feet wider than hip width distance and bring the feet to the outer edges of the mat. That always feels good. But looking for some length in the legs, hugging the belly in so you can lift the tail up as high as you can. So it's up and back. And if the legs are really tight, you can also put a deep bend in the knees. There's no need to straighten the legs in downward facing dog until your legs are open enough for that. Then from downward facing dog, look forward at the hands, step the right foot up between the hands, coming into a runner's lunge. Fingertips to the mat, reach the heart forward. You can even look forward. Chest can rest on the thigh or the inside of the torso can go on the inside of the right thigh. That's a little deeper, so listen to your body. Left hand underneath the left shoulder, right arm reaches up for a twist. Keep that top of the left thigh lifted as you open up the chest to the right. So sometimes it wants to drop down toward the mat and the leg gets a little loose. You want to keep it strong. That outer left hip hugs in toward the midline. Right hand comes down to the mat, straighten the front leg. So stay high on the ball of the back foot. Let the head and the neck go. Fingertips can walk in underneath the shoulders, or they can walk forward if you need more in the pose. Modified pyramid. Then inhale forward to your lunge, plant the hands, step back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Runner's lunge to start. You could come up onto the fingertips, blocks. If the hands want to touch all the way down onto the mat and that feels good, then you're welcome to be there too. Just try to keep the heart reaching forward so you take the rounding out of the upper back. Looking forward and down helps a little bit with that, keeps the chest going forward. Right hand underneath the right shoulder. Lift that left arm up. Fire up the right leg and the outer right hip. And then try not to dump into that right shoulder, right arm. See if you can get a little lighter there, reaching up more with the left. Left hand comes back down to the mat, straighten the front leg. You can walk the hands back as much as you want to, or forward for a deeper opening. Let the head and the neck go. Heart still reaching forward toward the toes, even though you let the head and the neck go. And that helps you get a little deeper too. Inhale forward to your lunge, plant the hands, step back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands, forward fold at the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway, slide the hands up the sides of the legs. Exhale, fold back down. 2 more like that. Ardha Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway, hugging the belly in, reach the heart forward. Exhale, fold. We're coming all the way up. Press down into the feet and the legs. Circle the arms out wide. Bring the hands together overhead, down in front of the heart. Surya A. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga, cobra or up dog, coming onto the tops of the feet, opening up wide across the chest, back of the neck long. Exhale back, downward facing dog. 2 more breaths here. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms on the inhale, up to standing. Hands come together at the top, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. 1 more of those. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. On your next inhale, glide forward to plank pose. Hover the right toes away from the mat. You're not going very high. Keep them as low as you can, actually, without touching the mat. And then come up onto the left fingertips. So try to keep those hips level and even. You could play with reaching the left arm forward. So you got to fire up that right leg, fire up the core. Maybe the left arm reaches forward at the same time. It's going to be wobbly, but you use those stabilizing muscles to see if you can find some stillness. Then left hand comes down, right foot steps up between the hands. Feet are hip width distance apart. Come up for crescent pose, which will feel real easy after that last little number. Bend the back knee, lengthen the lower back. So you should feel lots of space in the back side of the hips. And then you can work toward a straighter back leg only if you don't take away any of that space. So if you feel like straightening it all the way starts to tighten up the lower back, then keep a bend there. Then reach the arms forward just about halfway. Left leg still stretching back, right knee still stacked on top of the right ankle. Left hand comes down, right arm reaches up for a twist. Keep that left leg fired up. Left bicep rolling forward and right tricep rolling back. Right hand comes down to the mat, step back to downward facing dog. If you want a vinyasa, take one, but if that wobbly plank thing was a lot on the hands and the wrists, then skip it. Because we need to do the other side. So you want to pace yourself. All right, from downward facing dog, glide forward to plank pose. You know where we're headed, so get even in the arms and the legs, the core working. Hover those left toes away from the mat. See how firm you can get with the whole body. Come up onto the right fingertips. Get as light as you can in the right fingertips, and then play with reaching that right arm straight forward and the left leg back at the same time. Stay with your Ujjayi breath. Right hand down, step that left foot through, up between the hands. Feet hip width distance apart, crescent pose. Dig down into that left heel, reach the arms all the way up. Put a little bend in that back knee. Feel that space and width across the back of the hips, lower back area, and then work toward a straighter back leg. So you feel the difference when you use the core and you come up for these standing poses. Once you have the core all the way fired up, these poses are so much stronger, more stable. Reach forward about halfway. Keep stretching that right heel back behind you. This is typically harder, but after that core work, it probably feels a lot easier. Right hand comes down, left arm reaches up. Keep stretching that right leg back behind you. Left hand comes down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog, optional vinyasa. Then bend the knees, look forward, step, hop, walk, bring the feet up between the hands into your forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're coming into chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Come all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Back to down dog, optional vinyasa on the way. You choose. From downward facing dog, glide. Actually, let's do this a little differently. Walk the feet in your downward facing dog until you can get the heels all the way down to the mat. If you are already in a stance where you can get the heels down to the mat, then you can stay there. But most of us need to walk the feet forward a little bit to get the heels down. So it's a shorter stance for your downward facing dog. And then reach the right leg back, but don't go higher than the hip with the heel. So you can go a little lower if you want to, just try not to go any higher. All 5 toes on that right foot are pointing down. And then come up onto the fingertips of the left hand. See if you can keep everything stable and steady. Reach the left arm back behind you, so alongside the body. Left hand comes back down. Step that right foot all the way through to the top of the mat. This time, warrior one. Hop the back foot in, seal the heel, reach the arms forward and up. Square the hips, squaring the chest forward. And then if you want a little bit of a back bend, press down into both heels, hug the belly in. Maybe the gaze and the chest go up. Pubic bone and tailbone are going toward one another. Then bring the gaze forward. If you changed it, reach the arms alongside the body, back behind you, hovering the chest low over the front thigh without touching. Left hand comes down to the mat. You can come onto the ball, the back foot, lifting that heel, reach the right arm up, back in that twist. Right hand comes down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog, with or without the vinyasa. You may need to lengthen your stance of your downward facing dog when you come into the vinyasa if you're taking it. If you're not, you're set up for the other side. Once you get to downward facing dog, get the heels onto the mat. So you may need to walk the feet forward to do that. Shorter stance, downward facing dog. And then the left leg reaches up and back. Try not to go too high with it. Make sure you can at least see the toes on the left foot pointing down. And then come up onto the right fingertips. Play with reaching that right arm back behind you. So alongside the hip. And that wobbling's good. That's your body figuring out what does it have to do to keep you in this shape, which might mean bringing that right hand down over and over again. Right hand comes down, step that left foot all the way through to the top of the mat. Hop that back foot in for warrior one. Take your time getting there. Square the hips forward. Press down evenly into both heels. And then maybe there's a little bit of a back bend if you hug the belly in, reach up, look up. Gaze comes back forward, reach the arms back behind you. So it's like a humble warrior, but we're not interlacing the fingers, but you're squeezing the hands together and trying to stay even in the legs. So when we lean forward, all the weight wants to go on the left leg. See if you can drive down through that back leg. Come onto the ball of the back foot, right hand underneath the right shoulder. You may need to lengthen your stance. Left arm reaches up for that twist. Left hand down to the mat, downward facing dog, optional vinyasa. All right, bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. So a little different this time. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, back to downward facing dog. Take a vinyasa or skip it. We're going to come back to that plank thing in a moment. Once you get to downward facing dog, glide forward to plank pose. Hover the right toes away from the mat. Keep them as low as possible. Come up onto the left fingertips. Play with reaching that left arm forward. You're trying not to lift the hips. So squeeze those outer hips in toward the midline, navel to sternum, looking a little bit forward. Left hand comes down, right foot steps forward. Stay high on the ball, the back foot, back to crescent pose. Reach the arms forward and up. Bend in the back knee is optional. If you have it here, stay here with that back leg straight. This time, reach forward, hover over that front thigh, arms forward. Warrior 3, shift the weight to that front leg, lift from the inner left thigh, level off the hips. And you're stepping back to that lunge. Bend the right knee, reach back with the ball of the back foot, arm still reaching forward. Left hand comes down, right arm reaches up. So that transition to Warrior 3 is a tough one. Definitely a little bit more interesting after we play with that plank and messing with our stability. Was that Warrior 3 any more confident, stable in your body than it typically is? Right hand comes down, step back, downward facing dog. Stay here. We still have the other side, or vinyasa. So vinyasa should be feeding your practice. Skip them if they're not. Glide forward to plank. Hover the left toes. Get that figured out. Come up onto the right fingertips. Play with the right arm reaching forward. Right hand comes down to the mat. Left foot steps forward, feet hip width distance. Rise up, crescent pose. Stay here. Then start to hover over this front knee, reaching the arms forward. Get everything in alignment so that when you come to Warrior 3, all you do is just shift forward to that left foot, reach up with the inner right thigh, heel in line with the hip or lower, arms reaching forward. Steady Ujjayi breath. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the foot, keep the chest low, hovering over the front thigh. Right hand underneath the right shoulder, left arm reaches up. Right thigh still lifted, right leg strong. Left hand down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Stay here or vinyasa, following your breath. One more inhale, in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up. Be as quiet as you can, bringing the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, Utkatasana. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Keep the hands together in front of the heart. Close the eyes. Stand as tall as you can. Open up across the chest. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Start to fire up the legs here. So you're lifting the quads up, spinning those inner thighs back behind you, lifting the lower belly. And if there was a light shining from the center of the chest, it's pointing straight forward. Blink open the eyes, bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Any way you want, back to downward facing dog. Go straight there, maybe a vinyasa. Pace yourself. Glide forward to plank pose on the inhale. Hover the right toes away from the mat. And you're always welcome to skip the arms too if it's too much. Left fingertips onto the mat. Play with reaching that left arm forward. Left hand comes down, right foot steps forward. Stay high on the ball of the back foot, feet hip width, crescent on your inhale. Reach the arms forward, hovering high over that front thigh. Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. This time we're coming up to standing. Just hover that left foot away from the mat so it doesn't touch. And then bring that left knee up to hip height. Extend that left leg forward, keeping the arms reaching up. And then bend that left knee, come back to warrior 3. Push that left foot away from you like there's weight against it. Crescent pose. Keep the chest low, hovering over the front thigh so you can bring that left hand down, right arm up. So all that balance, standing balance, is coming from our core. Also the whole body working together, but the core really needs to be working to get that to happen pretty seamless. Bring the right hand down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog with or without a vinyasa. Inhale forward to plank pose. Hover the left toes away from the mat. Right fingertips to the mat. Maybe play with the right arm reaching forward. Right hand comes down, left foot steps forward, high on the ball of the back foot. Take your time, crescent pose. Reach the arms forward, hovering over the front thigh, warrior 3. Slowly start to come up to standing, hovering the right foot away from the mat, and then bring the right knee up to hip height. Maybe extend that right leg forward, arms and chest still reaching up. Then bend the right knee back to warrior 3. Push away with that right foot so you keep some activity in the leg as you reach the arms forward. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the right foot, arms reaching forward, right hand down, left arm up. Left hand down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Stay here, take a vinyasa. That's up to you. One more inhale in through the nose. Exhale, horse's breath, flutter the lips. Bend the knees, look forward, step, hop, walk, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose on your inhale. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Reach the arms all the way up. So Urdhva Hastasana, you're rooting down through the legs, you're lifting up through the fingertips, but try not to take those shoulders with you. Left arm reaches forward, hips stay forward the whole time, especially that right hip. It's going to want to come with you into the twist. Right arm reaches back. So keep that right hip going forward, spread the arms out as wide as you can. You can even look to the right or at that back hand if you want to. Bring the gaze forward if you changed it. Reach the arms all the way up. Right arm reaches forward this time. Left arm reaches back. Left hip points straight forward. Twist comes from the upper abdomen, chest area. Spread the arms out wide. Maybe the gaze goes back. Back to center. Reach the arms all the way up. Bend the knees. Sit back. Chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, plant the hands, step back, plank, down dog, vinyasa. You choose how you want to get to downward facing dog. Next, inhale, plank pose. Hover the right toes, keep them low. Maybe come up onto the left fingertips. Maybe left arm forward. Left hand down, right foot up between the hands, feet hip width, crescent pose. Those moments in your practice where crescent feels like a break. Reach the arms forward. Keep that chest open. Start to glide forward to warrior 3, lifting that left leg up from the inner left thigh. This time, left arm reaches down. It doesn't have to touch anything. Just reach it down underneath the shoulder. Right arm reaches up. Hug the core in. Open the chest. Just like we did when we were standing. Hips are going away from the chest. That's the twist. Get as long as you can in your twisted half moon. Back to warrior 3, reach the arms forward, bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot, and then bring the hands down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Up to you if you want a vinyasa, or take 5 smooth breaths in downward facing dog. Inhale forward to your plank pose. This is it, just this side. Hover the left toes away from the mat. Come up onto those right fingertips. Maybe play with reaching the right arm forward. Right hand down, left foot steps up between the hands, crescent pose. Reach the arms forward ahead of that left foot, warrior 3. Right arm reaches down toward the floor, doesn't have to touch, you're just keeping the hand in front of the shoulder. Hug the core in, open the chest to the left, spread the arms out wide, press out through both legs, lengthen out through the crown of the head. Back to warrior 3, reach the arms forward. It's just the upper body that changes. Bend the standing knee, reach back with the ball of the right foot, hands down to the mat, back to downward facing dog. Last vinyasa if you want it, or just stay in downward facing dog. Child's pose. Forehead down, maybe arms back behind you. Give your shoulders a break. But if you need to keep the hips up high in your child's pose, which is totally fine, that gives you more space for the knees, and you'll want the arms forward for stability. Okay, hands underneath you to lift the head and the chest and come to seated on the mat. So bring the legs over to one side, extend the legs out in front of you, and then scoot yourself forward so the hips are more toward the center of the mat. And then we'll come down onto our backs, setting up for bridge pose. So bring the head down to the mat, arms down by the sides. Walk the feet in so the heels are underneath the knees, toes pointing forward. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, maybe interlace the fingers underneath you. If the shoulders feel open enough for that, you can always grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip it apart. Then lift and spread the chest. Keep the chin away from the chest so the throat feels open. Tail points up between the knees. And slowly release. Bring the hips back down to the mat, rest. And we're doing 2 more cycles of that. So you're welcome to take supported bridge if you have a block or something to rest the hips on. You're welcome to take another active bridge. If you want to take something deeper and that's in your practice, you're welcome to do that too for the second and or third round. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, some version of a back bend. and start to release. Bring the hips back down to the mat, rest. If you're on a block, you can just stay there. The hips are already resting down on something, and that's the back bend. Otherwise, hips down to the mat. Setting up for your third and final round, deciding what you want to do. And then on your next inhale, bring yourself back in, making this the best one of the three. You have the most space for it. See where you can explore. One more inhale wherever you are. And the exhale brings you back down. With the feet down on the mat, hips on the mat, hug the right knee in toward the chest. Maybe extend the left leg out in front of you. Right knee crosses over the body. You need to shift onto the side of the left hip a little bit. Right arm reaches out to the outside the shoulder. You're coming into a spinal twist. With either one leg, if that's bothering your lower back, then bring the knees together into your spinal twist. If you're fine with just the right knee reaching over and the left leg extended underneath you, then stay there. Start to make your way back to center on your back. Both feet on the mat to start. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Extend the right leg. See how that feels. If it's good, bring the left knee all the way over to the right, shifting onto the side of the right hip, reaching that left arm back behind you. If that's not working, knees together. And you could even put something between the knees, like a block, pillow, blanket. That'll also help you create that space in the lower back if it's bothering you. Come back to center on your back, feet on the mat. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. And this time, extend the right leg up. So you can grab onto the back of the right thigh like we did before. You could walk the hands up the leg. Some of you will be able to get the calf, ankle, maybe even the foot. Just listen to your body. Left foot can stay on the mat, or you can extend that left leg forward, and that definitely makes it a little deeper. So legs coming in, right leg's coming in toward the body. Left leg still firm though, especially if it's extended out in front of you. If you have the left leg extended out in front of you, bring that left foot in, bending the leg, and then cross this right leg high up over the left leg. So you're crossing up as high as you can on the thighs. Bring both knees in toward the chest with the right leg on top of the left leg. And you could just grab onto this bottom knee. This feels pretty good. I feel a nice opening in the right glute area, right hip. You could stay right here, especially if this is enough. If you want more, you could bring the feet out wide, reach forward, grabbing the ankles with the feet flexed, or grabbing the outer edges of the feet. And then you can rest the head back down. So this is Gomukhasana, but on the back with just the legs. If you have the feet out wide, gently release, grab onto that bottom knee. We're all in the same place, hips back, hips are on the mat, heads on the mat. Then set the left foot down to the mat, right foot down to the mat. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Extend the left leg up, either grabbing onto the back of the left thigh or start to walk the hands up as you bring the leg in a little closer. Take it easy on yourself. Don't go too far. Just see where the nice, good therapeutic stretch is happening. Right foot can stay where it is, or you can extend that right leg forward. Keep it firm if you choose to extend it. Sole of the right foot comes back to the mat. Cross the left leg high up over the right leg. So go real high on the thighs and then bring the knees in toward the chest, grabbing onto that bottom knee maybe so you can bring them both in a little closer, seeing how that sits in the body. And maybe you stay right here. This is a nice hip opening. Stay here if it feels good. If you did it on the first side, bring the feet out wide. You can lift the head to grab the ankles or outer edges of the feet, keep the feet flexed, and then set the head back down. Always going back if it's too much. That's why there's so many options. And if I'm not giving one that works well for you, do it and always skip whatever doesn't work. Gently release the feet or the ankles if you have them. Grab onto that right knee, the bottom knee, bringing it back in toward the chest. And then set the feet back down onto the mat. Roll over to your right side. Use the hands to bring yourself up to seated, extending the legs out in front of you, reaching the arms all the way up. Fold down over the legs. Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. Let the head and the neck go. See if you can keep reaching the heart forward toward the feet so that you don't have too much rounding in the upper back. And then let the head and the neck go without losing that forward reaching of the sternum. One more deep inhale in through the nose. Slow exhale back out through the nose. Roll yourself back up to seated and then figure out how you want to close your practice, either a seated meditation or come onto your back for Shavasana. Either one's okay. Close the eyes, start to get yourself comfortable, coming into stillness and enjoying the work of your practice being behind you. The course of the rest of your day or evening is totally changed because you moved your body, took a moment to be present, and balanced your emotions. And you'll start to find small movements in the body and the hands and the feet. Slowly working your way back onto your mat. Reaching the arms overhead if you're on your back. If you're in your seated meditation, just stay there. We'll all meet there. And walking the feet in, bending the legs. Rolling over onto your right side, cradling the head and the arm. If that's comfortable in your body, keeping the eyes closed. Using in the left hand, press yourself up to an easy cross-legged seat, your meditation seat. Sitting up tall. Feeling that energy go all the way up the spine, up through the crown of the head. Bring the hands together in front of you. Maintaining the lift of the chest, start to bow the head, taking a moment to yourself to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you so much. Hope you had a great practice and a great rest of your day or evening. Thanks for joining.